Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and we have an exciting show in store for you today because we have a lot to cover. We're going to get right to viewer comments, which is brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. So let's get right to it. After yesterday's broadcast, just moments after we had concluded, I got this comment from a viewer. Great job. Well, thank you. I thought we did pretty good yesterday, too. So I appreciate that. This morning, we get a message from Mark saying, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. It's what's worth talking about Wednesdays with Mark. Well, thank you, Mark. A child fell off a bridge into the Genesee River in Rochester and is still missing. I saw that report yesterday. Tragic tale. 50% steel tariffs have started. Yes, and there's conversations with the Trump administration saying, send your proposals in. And we'll see if anything comes from that. Elon Musk is denouncing the big, beautiful bill, and that may be the biggest news piece, depending on what outlet you go to this morning, which we're going to talk about. And finally, and this weekend is the Belmont Stakes. Well, thank you, Mark. Yes, this weekend is the Belmont Stakes. It is a 8-horse field. You've got Hill Road in the first position at 10-1. Sovereignty going out 2-1. Rodriguez 6-1. Uncaged 30-1. Crudo 15-1. Baez 4-1. Journalism 8-5. And Heart of Honor at 30-1 as of this morning. So thank you, Mark. And if anybody would like to make their predictions for the Belmont, we'll read those on Friday. Okay, let's get to it. Yes, Elon Musk unleashed. This is the kind of news piece that the media longs for. The infighting, if you will, in the Trump administration. Now, Elon Musk, of course, a close ally to Trump, but turning yesterday on the big, beautiful bill, calling it disgusting abomination. He said, I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. The bill will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to $2.5 trillion, then 3 exclamation marks, and burden America citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt. Then in a third post, he said that Congress is making America bankrupt. In November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. Now, I don't know if that means he'll be throwing money behind campaigns or if it's just kind of a threat to scare some senators from voting for the big, beautiful bill. So there are 4 factors that most believe play into this exchange, if you will, by Musk. And it's coming from sources kind of, as they put, and I always think this is a weird way of sourcing somebody in your piece, but saying sources familiar with Musk's thinking. But this is coming from the New York Post. House Republicans' removal of electric vehicle tax credits that were part of the Biden-era Inflation Reduction Act and helped boost Tesla. That could be one of the reasons why he's upset. So thinking of it as a financial issue for him after, and I wouldn't think anybody would be completely, well, what's the word I want to look for? I don't think too many people could hold it against Musk for wanting to see some boost after taking such a hit by volunteering his time and treasure to try to reduce waste, fraud, and corruption. But I'll continue. White House officials' refusal to allow him to remain a special government employee beyond the 130-day statutory limit. The Federal Aviation Administration opting not to use his Starlink satellite system to help run the nation's air traffic control. And finally, Trump pulling his nomination of Musk ally Jared Isaacman to lead NASA over Isaacman's prior associations, widely believed to refer to past donations to Democrats. So this mindset is suggesting that there's self-interest in why Musk is unleashing on the big, beautiful bill. Bill Kristol, who is normally wrong on every prediction, every comment he makes, he was suggesting yesterday that perhaps Trump had fired him behind the scenes. That would kind of, in a way, relate to the idea that the White House refused to allow him to go past 130 days. But Musk had been going rogue quite a few times through his 130 days. So it would come as no surprise the Trump administration not want to take up that fight of changing the law, dealing with the backlash if Musk stayed on past 130 days. But there could be something to the removal of the electric vehicle tax credits because, again, Musk, specifically Tesla, taking quite a hit during his time working for the Trump administration. When we saw the left turn on electric vehicles, we saw the bombing, and there's a really interesting piece I hope to get to later on about the normalization of left-wing violence. And we saw that with Tesla dealerships. We saw that with Tesla vehicles being defaced. Now, Musk had previously dropped hints of his disdain for the mega bill. That was on CBS Sunday Morning. We had mentioned that. Excuse me. It's that time of year. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change his opinion, meaning Trump's opinion. Mike Johnson told Meet the Press on Sunday that he had sent a long text message to Musk to try to answer his concerns, apparently to no effect. Johnson also claimed he had a more than 20-minute chat with Musk on Monday. For him to come out and pan the whole bill is, to me, just very disappointing, very surprising in light of the conversation I had with him yesterday. Senate Majority Leader John Thune saying, obviously I respect everything that Elon did with Doge. On this particular issue, we have a difference of opinion. My hope is he has an opportunity to further assess what this bill actually does, and he'll come to a different conclusion. So you had the kind of tirade. And there's been a couple of missteps on this by Republicans. And we're going to dive into this more extensively later on in the program. But Marjorie Taylor Greene admitting that there's a part of the bill in regards to curtailing states' rights to regulate artificial intelligence over the next 10 years, saying that now that she has seen that, she doesn't think she would vote for the bill. So how does the media highlight that? How do they present it to you? That Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't read the bill, which is never a good look. So now, and I saw it this morning, I know anecdotal, but I did see one major outlet as I was getting ready for work saying, Marjorie Taylor Greene now admits having not read the big, beautiful bill. And that is the headline, instead of having a change of heart, or instead of saying, hey, listen, this may not be something that people like to hear, but I would like to know how many members of Congress actually read the full bill before a vote. I'm not saying that's right, that they don't. But they have a lot of people that work around them that read it, that look into it, that try to present the best case to their boss. And in this instance, she could have worded that a little bit differently. And now giving the media an opportunity to say she hadn't read the bill. So we've got the head of Doge, the former head of Doge, Elon Musk, calling the big, beautiful bill a disgusting abomination. We will talk about it more extensively later on in the program, but we would not be doing our job here if we didn't report on that right from the beginning of the program, because that is The breaking story of the day. I did want to mention this. We've got some other breaking stories. We've got a couple updates from throughout the week. Some New York State updates that I know you're going to find very interesting, as well as we're going to be talking about some issues that the Democrats are dealing with right now. But before that, and this is discouraging, I've mentioned this on the show numerous times, where when we first started broadcasting, frankly speaking, on TV, one of the goals is to get back to kind of a community mindset. Because we had polls that had shown that people just aren't active in their communities. They've lost faith in politics. They've lost faith in faith. And we said we would try to do our little bit to try to bring kind of the community mindset back in our area. And that's why we attempt to have as many local interviews, especially with your candidates, before you head to the booth, whether in this scenario, primary day coming up on June 24th, or whether general election day. But we try to get people patriotic again. That was another part of the poll. Well, according to a piece of CNN, young people are skeptical of the American dream. Now, that is discouraging to hear. Also, very much not surprising. When we see what's happening in the education system, specifically on college campuses, where would they be taught the American dream in a positive way? Because they've been told, perhaps their whole lives, what the media, academia label kind of this failed notion of the American dream, that there's too many negatives in America. So where would the patriotism or the belief in the American dream come from when they have been forced into this kind of propaganda that tells you how bad America is? But there are some striking divides in a new CNN poll, but they aren't necessarily the partisan kind Americans have come to expect. The first has to do with the American dream, which is a growing number of Americans feel it is out of reach. Most, 54%, still agreed with the idea that people who want to get ahead can make it if they're willing to work hard in the new poll. What's noteworthy is that when CNN asked the same question back in 2016, more than 2/3 of respondents, 67%, agreed with that optimistic idea. Looking at the new poll results, age-wise, younger Americans are less bullish that they can make it. About half, 51% of those under 45, felt that hard work and determination are no guarantee of success for most people, compared with 41% of those 45 and older. There's likely some partisanship behind those numbers, since younger Americans tend to be more liberal, despite the inroads that President Trump and Republicans have made with young people. So, again, it's discouraging, but I don't think it comes as a surprise to many of us who have been following what's happening in the education system for years, or what's happening on college campuses. Where would young people, be taught that the American dream is obtainable, that America is the land of milk and honey? Where would they be taught that? They're not getting it from pop culture. They're not getting it from the media. They're definitely not getting it on their college campuses. They're being told the opposite, that America's bad. There's things that in the past we can never overcome, that you can't overcome. So again, though discouraging, comes as no surprise. So I thought I'd start that, kind of tying in with a theme that we have very often on this program. Keep your comments, keep your waves coming in. We're just getting warmed up. Your thoughts on Elon Musk going rogue, turning on the one big, beautiful bill. Boy, the media is going to have a field day with this. This is the kind of story they love. But we'll talk about it later on in the program as well. We got a couple other breaking stories that we need to get to this morning. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In today's world, securing your business is more important than ever. Protected with Boss Security's state-of-the-art alarm systems. When seconds matter, trust the experts. Boss Security is proud to safeguard local businesses across the Twin Tiers. Contact Boss Security today.
Hi, this is owner Hesselsons and Amara Heights. At Hesselsons, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselsons now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselsons is still locally and family owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsons.
It's the Watt Glen Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta June 14th at 2 p.m. It'll be a great time, and you'll be saying H2 to these boat designs. So what are you doing June 14th? Go to the Watkins Glen Cardboard Boat Regatta.
Since 1983, Nissan has been assembling award-winning vehicles for you, right here in America. And we're committed to keeping our lineup affordable and free from new tariffs. That's why we've lowered MSRP on our best-selling Rogue and Pathfinder. So you can get the car you want, at the price you want, knowing Nissan is here for you at the Nissan Summer Sales Event.
Now get 0% APR financing for 60 months on the 2025 Nissan Rogue or Pathfinder.
If you or loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call
The Frankly Speaking roof cam overlooking historic Market Street, right in the heart of the Gaffer District, as we broadcast live from the Hesselsons studio. This is Frankly Speaking. Thank you again for joining us. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth yesterday ordered the Navy to review the names of several ships honoring the likes of slain gay rights leader Harvey Milk, abolitionist Harriet Tubman, and late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This is according to multiple reports. Navy Secretary John Fallon indicated in an internal memo that was obtained by CBS News that the name review is aimed at reestablishing the war culture in the military, a priority of the Trump administration and something that Pete Hegseth has been not ran on. I mean, I guess technically you don't run for defense secretary, but has made very clear that that is his goal, to bring back the warrior culture. So Mr. Hegseth feeling as if Harvey Milk, Harriet Tubman, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg maybe not indicative of that warrior culture. Again, I don't like the secret leaks of internal memos, if I'm being honest. That always concerns me. But Secretary Hegseth is committed to ensuring that the names attached to all the Department of Defense installations and assets are reflective of the Commander-in-Chief's priorities, our nation's history, and the warrior ethos, said Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell. Any potential renamings will be announced after internal reviews are complete. The small team that has been assembled to go over potential name changes is expected to announce a new moniker for the USNS Harvey Milk, a replenishment oiler, by the end of June, according to the Associated Press. Milk, who served as a sailor during the Korean War, was forced out of the Navy for being gay. He later became one of the first openly gay elected officials in American history when he successfully ran to serve on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors back in 1977. So again, this is, well, taking a step back, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who represents San Francisco in the lower chamber, slammed the renaming as spiteful in a statement released on Tuesday, arguing that it does not strengthen our national security or the warrior ethos. Instead, it is a surrender of a fundamental American value to honor the legacy of those who worked to build a better country. Democrat California Governor Gavin Newsom argued that removing Milk's name from the vessel won't erase his legacy as an American icon, but it does reveal Trump's contempt for the very values our veterans fight to protect. So the recommendation list, or various renamings, potential renamings, include the USNS Thurgood Marshall, USNS Ruth Bader Ginsburg, USNS Harriet Tubman, USNS Lucy Stone. I don't have to read that every time, right? Dolores Huerta, Cesar Chavez, Medgar Evans. That is the list of, I guess you could say, on the chopping block. So bringing back P. Hegseth, attempting with this name change, according to the internal memo, to reestablish the warrior culture in the military. That was another breaking story in the Trump media cycle, where if you blink, you may just miss a major story. That is one, though, that the media will continue to push. There's absolutely no doubt on that. We do have a couple of updates on New York State issues. I would like to hear your thoughts on what Elon Musk is saying about the big, beautiful bill, calling it a disgusting abomination. We know that there have been many senators and congresspeople on the Republican side speaking out against it. Rand Paul speaking out against it. Donald Trump going after him yesterday. We're going to talk about that later on. We will dive, probably in the 7 o'clock hour, dive a little bit deeper into what Musk was saying, but also the reaction, the speculation that Musk is upset that the electric vehicle incentives would be going away. Some suggesting either because Trump may have fired him behind the scenes, or they at least did not extend his 130 days as a special government employee. A lot of various speculations as to why he is coming out full-throated against the big, beautiful bill. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in the program. When we come back, I think a story that's being overall downplayed or overlooked in a way, but I think sends a very clear message of what we're dealing with when we talk about the threat posed by China. So we'll be talking about that when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
From laminate and vinyl to tile and wood, Floor & Decor has more options for pros, homeowners, and anyone looking for the right look at the right price. Your next beautiful space is at Floor & Decor.
I told myself I was okay with my moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis symptoms.
With my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. But just okay isn't okay.
And I was done settling.
If you still have symptoms after trying Humira, Rinvoq works differently. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill from the makers of Humira that can rapidly relieve joint pain, stiffness, and swelling as fast as 2 weeks for some. And even at the 3-year mark, many people felt this relief. Rinvoq can stop joint damage, and in PSA, can leave skin clear or almost clear.
Rinvoq can lower ability to fight infections. Before treatment, test for TB and do blood work. Serious infections, blood clots, some fatal. Cancers including lymphoma and skin, serious allergic reactions, GI tears, death, heart attack, and stroke occurred. CV event risk increases in age 50 plus with a heart disease risk factor. Tell your doctor if you've had these events, infection, Hep B or C, smoked, are pregnant, or planning. Don't take if allergic or have an infection.
Ask your rheumatologist if switching to Rinvoq is right for you.
And take back what's yours.
Need it for a grad, for dad, or yourself? This month, GCP has incredible savings on Jim Beam Bourbon and Jim Beam flavors. A 1-liter bottle, normally $19.99, is just $17.99. With $4 mail-in rebate, your final cost is $13.99. 750 milliliter La Marca Prosecco, normally $17.99, is now on sale for $14.99. Perfect for celebrating any occasion. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines and Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
It's Macy's Friends and Family Sale. That means insider deals on summer styles from your favorite brands, plus 15% off beauty and fragrance too. It's the perfect time to shop for summer. So hurry in. Macy's Friends and Family is going.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments. The Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. Find out more at SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org. Comments from viewers. Elon is right. The bill has too much unnecessary spending. Bills like this lead to our big, beautiful bureaucracy. Thank you very much, viewer. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Another gorgeous morning. Yes, it is another gorgeous morning. That's why we gave you a little extra time on the roof cam this morning. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good morning as well. So a very troubling story coming out yesterday about a Chinese national couple that has been hit with criminal charges for allegedly smuggling a dangerous fungus into the United States. This fungus, capable of destroying crops and poisoning humans and livestock. We talked about the real threat of China in the past, and you can go back to questions about COVID and the like, but the couple, specifically young Zunyang Liu, 34 years old, was caught by U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers attempting to smuggle, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the fungus, a biological pathogen considered to be a potential agro-terrorism weapon into the United States via the Detroit Metropolitan Airport. This happened in last July. Liu initially made false statements about his visit to the U.S. and his knowledge of the pathogen before admitting to law enforcement that he was bringing the noxious fungus to his girlfriend, 33-year-old University of Michigan lab researcher Yang Bing Wan, according to authorities. The complaint alleges that it's spelled J-I-A-N, received Chinese government funding for her work on this fungus in China, and that she is a loyal member of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, do I believe this will be downplayed in many media outlets? I absolutely do. I know this should be more than a tweet from Elon Musk. This should be the main headlines this morning. This fungus, again, considered a potential agro-terrorism weapon being smuggled into the United States to a member that is to a Chinese national that is a loyal member of the Chinese Communist Party. Liu works at a Chinese university where he conducts research on the same pathogen. Now, originally, she denied that she was aware of her boyfriend's intent to smuggle the pathogen during an interview with the FBI, but an investigation determined that the couple discussed the shipping of biological materials and research being done in the laboratory. Evidence also suggests Yin had been involved in smuggling packages of biological material into the United States on prior occasions. The couple will face conspiracy, smuggling, false statements, and visa fraud charges, according to U.S. Attorney Jerome Gorgon. Quote, the alleged actions of these Chinese nationals, including a loyal member of the Chinese Communist Party, are of the gravest national security concerns, Gorgon said in the statement. These two aliens have been charged with smuggling a fungus that has been described as a potential agro-terrorism weapon into the heartland of America, where they apparently intended to use a University of Michigan laboratory to further their scheme. Now, what was the ultimate goal of that scheme? Were we looking at a potential, agro-terrorism attack brought to us by the Communist Party of China? Now, what this fungus can do can contaminate wheat, barley, maize, and rice crops with a disease known as head blight, which is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. The toxins then that the fungus gives off can lead to vomiting, liver damage, and reproductive defects in humans and livestock if consumed. Special agent in charge of the FBI Detroit field office said in a statement the federal charges announced today against these two, both residents of the People's Republic of China, signify a crucial advancement in our efforts to safeguard our communities and uphold national security. These individuals exploited their access to laboratory facilities at a local university to engage in the smuggling of biological pathogens, an act that posed an immediate threat to public safety. Now, this does also speaks to a larger point that Marco Rubio made last week, looking into the student visas of Chinese nationals at our universities. This is at a time when overall our universities are being finally focused on by this administration, and I don't mean finally by them, I mean by any administration. The look in this instance, where you have Chinese nationals with ties to the Communist Party, being allowed to even study here, I think, is questionable and raises red flags, because what are they learning here that they're bringing back to further the cause of the Chinese Communist Party? But in this instance, being involved with potential agro-terrorism. In a statement, the University of Michigan said it received no funding from the Chinese government in relation to research conducted by the accused individuals, and that it has and will continue to cooperate with federal law enforcement in its ongoing investigation and prosecution. We strongly condemn any actions that seek to cause harm, threaten national security, or undermine the university's critical public mission. So a major, very troubling, maybe you could call escalation, when you have two Chinese nationals with ties to the Chinese Communist Party being arrested for smuggling into the United States a potential agro-terrorism weapon. It's not something you can take lightly. We know that many in Washington do take the threat of China lightly because of how much money is to be had. And you see that in places like Hollywood as well, editing their movies, changing their movies to make sure that they're allowed in the Chinese market. So there's a lot of money there. But this is why it's so important, and thank heavens that Marco Rubio and others are looking into what's being done on college campuses. As reported last week, Rubio said in an announcement, the U.S. will begin revoking visas of Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. Yes, because what is the ultimate benefit to the United States for allowing these Chinese nationals to study here in the United States and return home with that knowledge to benefit the Chinese Communist Party? Again, explain that to me, why that is a positive. Now, I know the media and others are twisting this to say it's some type of attack on college campuses, and I think this just proves, and that's why the media is going to downplay it, this just proves why the work Marco Rubio is doing is so important. Just to tie in with this before we move along, and keep your comments coming in. We can talk about the big, beautiful bill, but I would argue that that's a much bigger story than what Elon Musk said. But tying directly into this, Arizona Democrat Governor Katie Hobbs, who is up for re-election this year, received backlash yesterday. She vetoed a bill, and explain to me why she would do this. She vetoed a bill which is aimed at preventing China from buying up land next to strategic assets, such as military bases. So again, yesterday we have the story about the Chinese nationals arrested for trying to smuggle in potential agro-terrorism weapon of a fungus, smuggling that into the United States, the nationals with ties to the Communist Party in China. On that same day, Arizona Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs vetoing a bill. That bill would prevent China from buying up land next to strategic assets like military bases. Tie those all in together. Arizona State Senate Majority Leader Janie Shamp said the politically motivated veto was utterly insane, blaming Hobbs for being an obstructionist against safeguarding our citizens from threats. However, Hobbs said the bill was ineffective at counter-espionage and did not directly protect American military assets in the state. That was her excuse when vetoing this, that it was ineffective at counter-espionage. So if we can't have counter-espionage, let's just give up altogether and let them buy land around our military bases. I'm confused by that. Chinese investment in land near military bases has become an increasing concern for national security hawks. Shamp, in her efforts to get the now vetoed bill passed, cited recent Chinese attempts to lease buildings alongside Arizona's Luke Air Force Base, where the military trains fighter pilots. And this, we learn all the time of potential hacks by the Chinese government where they can shut down our sewer, our water in these various towns, municipalities, things that you don't even think of. You've got land being purchased around military bases. You've got 2 students from China smuggling in that fungus, that agroterrorism weapon. And yeah, Arizona Democrat Governor Katie Hobbs decides to veto a bill that would prevent China from buying up that land. And what is her excuse for vetoing it? In my opinion, not a very strong excuse, that it was ineffective at counter-espionage and did not directly protect American military assets in the state. Michael Lucy, the CEO and founder of State Armor Action, a conservative group with a mission to develop and enact state-level solutions to global security threats, said Governor Hobbs' veto of SB 1109 hangs an open for the CCP sign on Arizona's front door, allowing communist China to buy up American land near critical assets like Luke Air Force Base, Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant, Taiwan Semiconductor's growing fabrication footprint. Allowing communist China to buy up land near our critical assets is a national security risk, plain and simple. And Governor Hobbs is substantially and completely wrong, or substantively and completely wrong when she says the bill is ineffective at counter-espionage and does not directly protect our military assets. Lucy pointed to Ukraine's recent drone attacks that destroyed significant numbers of Russian military aircrafts, noting that proximity produces peril in asymmetric warfare. Hobbs, in her defense of the veto, added that in addition to being ineffective at countering Chinese espionage efforts, the bill lacked clear implementation criteria, which opens the door for arbitrary enforcement. All tying in together, folks. Scary stuff to start your morning off with, but I think very important. Yes, I know talking about what Musk had to say is important. I'm not denying that. I'm not downplaying that. But I think those stories, much larger in the overall scheme of what it can directly or indirectly affect you. We've got some other updates we're going to get to here in just a little bit, but I want to read your comments. What's your thoughts about Elon Musk saying the big beautiful bill is a disgusting abomination? We'll get to those when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Your water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
I'm Mary Offord. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Here I am, field trip chaperone.
Before preventing migraine with Qulipta, it was hard keeping plans.
And look at me now.
You'll never truly forget migraine, but Qulipta reduces attacks, making more zero migraine days possible.
Don't take if allergic to Qulipta. Get help right away for serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing, face, lip, or tongue swelling, itching, or rash, which may occur when taking Qulipta or days after. Common side effects include nausea, constipation, and sleepiness.
Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Qulipta.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's read viewer comments during our Steuben Senior Services Fund section of the program. Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. So, viewer comment. I'm indifferent as to Elon Musk's disagreement with the bill. Perhaps a positive spin to the story is that he is an independent thinker and not following Trump in lockstep. It is nice that he can offer a different perspective on the bill. That's a very good point, and it kind of goes against the narrative that we've heard so much, specifically from the protesters that have been very active since Trump took office in his second term, which is everybody's scared of Trump. Everybody's doing Trump's bidding. He only picks loyalists. Well, if you agree with that sentiment, doesn't Elon Musk kind of blow that out of the water, or at least turn it on its head? Because he's not following in lockstep. He's not being the scary loyalist that we've heard so much about since Trump took office. So I think it does show that Trump has people around him that have a difference of opinion at times. To hear those differences of opinion. Not like the Biden administration, where we learned that there was a secret kind of cabal of people running the government because of Biden's mental decline. And those people in lockstep, and those people so much yes men that they had tried to convince Biden that he was very healthy for a second term. Fine. He was going to be fine. So very different. I would agree with you. That's a great way of putting it. Another comment, the smuggling of biological pathogens is a very serious problem. After witnessing firsthand a few days ago how our borders are handled, surprises me that they found that in their luggage. It's physically impossible for them to check each and every bag for something like that that doesn't normally show up on X-ray. I would hope, though, when you have, and you're right, but I would hope if you have people coming in from China to the universities, to the these major airports, I hope that really from anywhere the bags can be checked. But to your point, if it doesn't show up on X-ray, that is troubling. I don't know how they prepare for that, so it is great that they were caught before that agro-terrorism weapon could be used on the United States by people with ties to the Communist Party of China, which actually ties in with a really interesting piece today by Michael Goodwin from the New York Post, who says Colorado attack, the Boulder attack, where the illegal immigrant threw Molotov cocktails at peaceful pro-Israel protesters. The Colorado attack proves America needs some common sense on immigration. Stop importing terrorism. During a long ago spate of police misconduct issues, then NYPD Commissioner Ray Kelly noted with dismay that some of the accused had only recently joined the police force. It's frustrating because we try very hard not to recruit our problems. It's a common sense principle that America has lost sight of when it comes to immigration. From anti-Semitism to street crime, the nation is bedeviled by an explosion of violence and hate. Even a cursory review reveals that a significant portion of the wrongdoing is being committed by immigrants, most of them here illegally, thanks to Joe Biden's insane open border policy. A key distinction involves the leaders of the pro-Hamas campus turmoil. Many are foreign students from Muslim nations, legally admitted on student visas, only to turn on America and Israel once they got here by supporting a terrorist organization. That's a really good point, and that's really what we saw with those Chinese nationals, too. They come here, and that's why it's so refreshing, or it's a relief in many ways that Marco Rubio is looking into this, and others within the Trump administration, as to protect America from what is happening on college campuses. For most of our history, Michael Goodwin says, those were regarded as common sense standards that were supported by both political parties, and most people were proud to call America a nation of immigrants. But as trust in the federal government declined and leftist ideologues rewrote history to declare the U.S. a hotbed of racism and xenophobia, the government backed off of various enforcement laws when it came to visas and coming here legally. And that ties in with what that piece that we had earlier. I keep saying ties in, I apologize. What we talked about earlier in the program, which was that younger people don't believe in the American dream any longer. Well, it's because they've been taught that the U.S. is a hotbed of racism and xenophobia. So just to wrap this up, he talks about the gang members that have come here Never mind that some are hardened gang members, drug dealers, human traffickers, and mental patients who were kicked out of their home countries and prisons and sent to America. Naturally, the left media also opposes anything Trump does, including his efforts to deport criminal aliens. The Colorado case seems to have provoked hand-wringing in many newsrooms, to judge by hair-splitting accounts about whether the suspect was here legally. Trump has no doubts, posting on social media, that Sunday's attack was yet another example of why we must keep our borders secure and deport illegal anti-American radicals from our homeland. Like him or not, he is absolutely right, says Goodwin. And unfortunately, that attack ties in with, and I keep saying ties in, it highlights a piece that I want to get to later on, but we might jump ahead to it, which is kind of the normalization, unfortunately, of this left-wing violence, whether it's the firebombing of Tesla dealerships, whether it's the attacks on peaceful pro-Israel protesters, whether it's the chaos, the destruction on college campuses, whether it's through the media, whether it's through politicians' words and rhetoric. The left-wing violence has become normalized, and it's a very troubling trend. But keep your comments, keep your waves coming in. We've got to take a short break, and then we will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
Slow down.
Cut! I get it. Slow motion. Slow down geographic atrophy. But we don't need gimmicks. Stick to the facts. GA, the advanced form of dry AMD, can irreversibly damage your vision. But Syfovre is an FDA-approved eye injection that gives you the power to slow GA. Syfovre was proven to slow GA lesion growth over 2 years with increasing effect over time. It's the only treatment to slow GA in as few as 6 doses per year.
Don't take Syfovre if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye that may include pain and redness or are allergic to it. Syfovre can cause severe allergic reactions. Other serious side effects are eye infection and retinal detachments, severe inflammation of vessels in the retina, which may result in severe vision loss, wet AMD, eye inflammation, and an increase in eye pressure. Most common side effects are eye discomfort, wet AMD, small specks floating in vision, and blood in the white of the eye. Tell your doctor right away if you have any side effects.
Act on facts to slow GA. Ask your retina specialist about Syfovre. Nope, just the facts.
It's the 20 cardboard boat regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, going to viewer comments during the Student Senior Services Fund section of our program. Good morning. I got to put that. I forgot to put their logo up. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. Couldn't Trump sign an executive order keeping other countries from buying land in our country? It seems like that practice could be a national security threat. Definitely seems like a national security threat. I'm not sure, but that does seem like something with all the executive orders that we've seen that maybe Trump should look into. Mark writes in, as far as the fungus being smuggled into the U.S. by China, I wonder how much more is getting through, and China is buying a lot of U.S. farmland. So what would stop them from getting this fungus started on their own soil? That they bought in the United States. That's a very good point, Mark. And then, of course, spreading. Also, if they buy up the farmland for whatever purposes, and you have issues with established farms with this agro-terrorism fungus, would that farmland then would we be more dependent on them for agriculture? It raises a lot of major concerns, but both very good comments. Thank you to both viewers. Quickly, these all weirdly are intertwined this morning. When we talked about the Colorado attack, the anti-Semitic attack, the Washington Post has issued a correction on a story it published. We had brought this story to you yesterday. They had claimed Israeli soldiers shot and killed 31 civilians in Gaza who were attempting to collect aid at a U.S.-run site. Now, some will blame stories like this for fanning the flames of this anti-Semitism. But after the damage had been done and they reported on it, they admitted in a post on Twitter, yes, that's where everybody goes to air their sins, I suppose, that they could not verify the incendiary report published on Sunday, bearing the headline. This was a headline. At least 31 people were killed Sunday morning in southern Gaza, according to the Strip's health ministry, when Israeli troops opened fire on crowds making their ways to collect aid. That was the headline. Now, in their mea culpa, they said the article failed to make clear if attributing the deaths to Israel was a position of the Gaza health ministry or a fact verified by the Post. Adding, the Post didn't give proper weight to Israel's denial and gave improper certitude about what was known about any Israeli role in the shootings. Yeah, they took the Gaza, or they took the Hamas propaganda wing's word for it and did not play or did not take into account any of what Israel had said. The early version fell short of Post standards of fairness and should not have been published in that form. The updated version of the story still includes the claim 31 Palestinians were killed while they sought aid from an Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution site. But so often the media wants to run with the propaganda being pushed out by Hamas. Also, this is all going to come together here. We had talked about the radicalization on college campuses, why young people don't believe in the American dream, why you're seeing very troubling trends, whether it's the anti-Semitism on college campuses or whether it's the Chinese nationals with the communist ties, with that fungus. Well, the University of North Carolina Asheville Dean of Students, Megan Pugh, has been removed from her position after admitting to secretly pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. This is somewhat what Columbia kind of got caught with, where it was, yes, Trump, we will do everything you say. And then when the faculty got outraged because they want the radicalization on college campuses, they want that far left push, they said behind closed doors, don't worry, we're going to play Trump for this one. Did not work, but we'll continue. Pugh told an undercover journalist, I mean, we probably still do anyway, but you got to keep it quiet. I love breaking rules, the university dean said in that undercover journalist expose. Pugh's comments follow after the North Carolina System Board of Governors voted to virtually ban controversial DEI practices and pivot to institutional neutrality. The video also shows Pugh agreeing when asked if breaking rules is why y'all kind of spread it out and stuff. She admitted part of it is just because we don't have a dedicated office for it anymore. It's easier to maintain until more or less they get mad at us, but they haven't done it yet. So still behind closed doors, pushing that radicalization. Again, going back full circle to the beginning of the program, why people don't believe, young people specifically don't believe in the American dream, because they've been told from the beginning that the country is xenophobic, racist, you name it. Okay, a little bit more when we wrap up hour number one. Where's the show going this morning? Boy, we're having a blast. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. It's a beautiful morning. Thank you for joining us here on Frankly Speaking. Getting ready to wrap up hour number one. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Advanced robotic surgery is now available in the Southern Tier. With the Da Vinci Surgical System, experienced local surgeons at UR Medicine St. James and Jones Memorial Hospitals can perform minimally invasive procedures with greater precision.
That means less pain, shorter hospital stays, and a faster recovery so you can get back to life sooner.
Trust the expertise of your local surgeons and the most advanced technology for your surgery.
You no longer need to travel for cutting-edge surgical care.
Visit robotics.urmc.edu for more information.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
If you or one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Our picturesque view of historic Market Street brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, wrapping up hour number 1. In the next hour, we're going to talk a little bit more about Elon Musk unleashing any of the hyperbole you want to use. The media is having a field day with it, but calling the big, beautiful bill a disgusting abomination. We'll talk about that next hour. I do want to get to the article that I have been mentioning all morning by Max Horder, which is left-wing violence is being normalized. So we'll talk about that in the next hour. Then into some New York State issues. Would love to hear your continued comments on the agro-terrorism fungus smuggled in by Chinese nationals to the was it University of Michigan, the University of Michigan campus, where the one Chinese national, at least, had ties to the Communist Party of China. So very disturbing and troubling news there this morning. But it seems like we've covered a lot, but we still have a lot left to cover. One quick announcement, because I just received a note from our friend Elisa that they have extended the deadline for Miss Colonial Days pageant participants. So if you have not signed up, your family member, your loved one has not signed up yet, there has been a little bit of an extension, but I would do so sooner rather than later, excuse me. The pageant itself is next Thursday at 6 p.m., but you see all the information there if someone you know wants to become a contestant, that's the word I was looking for Miss Colonial Days. Because they've extended the deadline by just a few days. So she wanted me to pass that along to you. Okay, a lot to cover in the next hour. Your thoughts on Elon Musk, your thoughts on what we've discussed so far. This morning we've got a couple updates on the Democrat Party, a couple updates on the Trump administration. Trump's 50% tariffs on imported steel and aluminum take effect today. We know that there is, I think Britain is the only exception, but he's also made it clear that various countries can reach out to him and they can start making deals. And I don't know, we've got a lot about Musk, the big beautiful bill, a little bit about everything. But New York State issues after we talk about left-wing violence being normalized, that in the next hour. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll be right back with hour number 2 after this.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Scamming is a huge problem today. Worldwide, seniors lost $4.8 billion to scammers in 2024. The Steuben County Office for the Aging is here to help. Come to our seminar, Recognizing and Avoiding Financial Scams, Wednesday, June 4th at the Main Place in Hornell, New York, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Learn how to identify scams, how to protect yourself, and fraud watch tips. Also, the Steuben County Office for the Aging will provide tips on emergency preparedness, June 4th at 12 p.m. To learn more, go to steubencountiny.gov/235.
It's the 20 cardboard boat regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025.
Migraine strikes. Do you question the trade-offs of treating? Ubrelvy is another option. It works fast, and most have migraine pain relief within 2 hours. You can treat it anytime, anywhere. Tell your doctor all medicines you take. Don't take if allergic or with strong CYP3A4 inhibitors. Get help right away for allergic reactions like trouble breathing, face, mouth, tongue, or throat swelling, which may occur hours to days after. Side effects.
It's hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This is Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Agam. Thank you for joining us. A comment from a viewer during our Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read your comments. If you're new to the show, you see that number on the bottom of the screen. Reach out with your comments, your questions, your suggestions, also just a wave, an emoji. We'll add it to the count there. Frank, no one owns land in the United States. Just don't pay your taxes. That's a very fair point. All they have to do is tax. There you go. Okay. I said I would mention this before we move on to New York State issues, but this ties in with many of the issues we've been discussing on the program. Max Horder says left-wing violence is being normalized. We've come to a series of startling conclusions about a change that's happening in U.S. society. Now, you can talk about it with the Boulder, Colorado attack. You can talk about it with the destruction on college campuses, the firebombing of Tesla dealerships. Something has changed in America's psyche. Violence has become more acceptable. It's not just that we've seen 2 attempted and very nearly successful attacks on Donald Trump's life. It said a worrying number of young Americans cheered on those attempted assassinations and still wish they had succeeded. We even had Hollywood celebrities saying the same. Since early this year, there has been widespread public support for smashing up Tesla dealerships and for shooting Elon Musk. An unprecedented 10,000 new threats have been made against Senate and congressional members just this year, according to the Capitol Police. Applause for the actual murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in December goes on unabated online. His accused killer, Luigi Mangione, is praised, respected, and even worshipped by a small but growing social media community. Elias Rodriguez, the man accused of killing 2 Israeli embassy officials in Washington on May 21st, had praised Mangione on his social media. Americans always used to prize fighting. What? Americans always used to prize fighting it out at the ballot box. Now, an apparently psychotic murderer has become a hero for young people who imagine he stands for vigilante justice against corporate greed. In early May, a former director of the FBI posted what many observers believe to be a threat to assassinate the president. A picture on Instagram of some shells arranged to read 8647, along with the caption, "Cool shell formation on my beach walk." James Comey insists his post was innocent. Yet to 86, someone is slang for get rid of or kill, and 47 is the number of the current president. So it's easy to see why Trump-appointed authorities see the matter differently. Yes, James Comey just had no idea. Serious acts of violence are still mercifully uncommon, but the response to such acts is significant. Surface tremors that signal powerful tectonic shifts in the civic ground on which Americans have walked confidently for centuries. The United States has been mostly free from large-scale political violence because the country has been graced by the combination of 2 remarkable gifts: an ingeniously well-designed democratic system and the proliferation of large-scale civic norms. These mean that the U.S. can, paradoxically, stay permanently in revolution and change without the bloodshed which has defined so much of world history. It's more than a historical anomaly. It's been an economic and ethical miracle, but it might not last. At the Network Contagion Research Institute, we've been scratching our heads ever since we noticed this explosion of online support for Thompson's murder in December of last year. It was disturbing, to say the least. What could possibly explain the wild-eyed celebration of extreme violence on the streets of New York? Why was there a mass circulation of images featuring Musk being killed by Nintendo characters? Well, after working through a heap of survey data and social media language trends, they've come to a series of startling conclusions about a change that's happening in United States society. The NCRI has uncovered more than just an online ecosystem of unsettling ideas. What they've seen is a rise and proliferation of assassination culture on the internet. It's more than just a collection of jokes, symbols, and memes. It's an entirely new subculture for incubating radical and subversive ideas that go against, that are antithetical to the things America has historically stood for. Over the past several decades, we have assumed that calls for political violence come from the far right. That's what the media, that's the narrative they have pushed. What we never expected to see was the enormous growth in similar calls emerging from the mainstream left. We undertook a nationwide survey to understand it better and discovered that a breathtaking half of those who identified as politically left-wing agreed that the murder of public figures could be at least somewhat justified. Let me say that again. A breathtaking half of those who identified as politically left-wing agree that the murder of public figures could at least somewhat be justified. What's more, 56% of them agreed that there could be some justification for killing Trump. Just under half agreed that the same could be said about the fate of Musk. Tesla dealerships, too, merit at least some destruction, according to 59% of those surveyed. They took in a deeper dive. We're not going to go into all of that, but the normalization of this left-wing violence, that doesn't get the media's attention, that they don't want to highlight. You know, you can go back to how far left the congressional baseball practice shooter was. They were downplaying that at the time as well. But this culture that in many instances is being ramped up or fanning the flames of, at the very least, by some of this really violent rhetoric by some of our elected officials as well. When enough people tolerate, permit, and applaud the contemplated murders of Musk or Trump or men of their ilk, someone will try to be a hero, and then someone will try again. Post by post, tweet by tweet, the civic ground that supports democratic disagreement is cracking, and the cracks open into abyss. So that's an article that was in the Spectator by Max Horter. The left-wing violence is being normalized. Troubling. But we've seen it with our own eyes, not just on college campuses, not just in the media, very much on social media. But that really was kind of disturbing in the overall. And this is a disturbing show this morning with some of the breaking news stories that we've had. But I thought that I would be doing a disservice if I didn't pass that along to you, because most of the media will not cover it in that way. They don't want to talk about even some of the rhetoric of our elected officials on the left that have fanned the flames of this. As a matter of fact, they wanted to, if you recall, during the election, wanted to stop publications from posting the fight photo after the attempted assassination of Trump, because they thought it could be used as pro-Trump propaganda. All right, so Elon Musk, we can talk more about that, but I would like to hear your comments. But saying that the big beautiful bill is a disgusting abomination. Before that, a couple updates on New York State issues. Number one, the Lieutenant Governor, Antonio Delgado, who announced yesterday, or I guess technically the day before, that he is challenging Governor Hochul in a Democratic primary for governor. Well, Governor Kathy Hochul's number two, again, they're estranged to say the least, Antonio Delgado, is being pushed to resign after he announced he wants her job. They're suggesting he shouldn't be on the payroll. Queens Borough President Donovan Richards said he shouldn't be on the payroll of the employer he opposes. Well, Hochul has been very good for Queens. Whatever we've asked, she has delivered, Richards said. There's rumors that he may be picked, this Richards, as a lieutenant governor. So maybe that's why. But there's a piece at Empire Report today of all these elected officials that are coming out early and endorsing Hochul because of Delgado's, if you want to call it, disastrous rollout, not handling it right. I think disaster is kind of overhyping what it was, but it didn't go perfectly. Now, Hochul handpicked Delgado to be her number two back in 2022, but it's long been expected he'd throw his hat into the race to unseat her. So many people calling him for him to resign immediately. Now, Elise Stefanik, who there is hopes, boy, they're trying to keep her out. I saw a piece this morning that suggested new polling shows that Mike Lawler is the only way a Republican could win New York State. Then Mike Lawler, a moderate is the only way a Republican could win New York State. That's the same narrative we heard about the presidency year after year, whether it was, well, every 4 years, whether it was going back to Bob Dole, John McCain, Mitt Romney. I don't know, Trump made a lot of inroads in New York, and I don't think a watered down, and this is not speaking to Mike Lawler specifically, it was the headline that only a moderate can win, that a watered down Republican is the way we can win if Trump made those kind of inroads in New York. But at least Stefanik, again, speculating she might run for governor of New York State. She called Staten Island Trump country ahead of a fiery speech to local Republicans on Monday, as she potentially is eyeing a 2026 run against Hochul. The upstate congresswoman bashed Hochul as an accidental governor. She has a point. In comments to the pro-Trump crowd, "Are we ready to fire Kathy Hochul next year in the state of New York?" she asked during her 10-minute speech at the Vanderbilt Catering Hall in South Beach. "We're seeing an abysmal economic outlook. We are the highest tax state in the nation under single-party Democrat rule led by Kathy Hochul. We have sky-high regulations that are running small businesses out of the state." She also said families were leaving in mass exodus because of state policies. She also called the new $9 congestion pricing toll approved by Hochul anti-worker, and said the governor has prioritized illegals, illegal border jumpers, or undocumented migrants. That's how out of touch Kathy Hochul is on the economy. But then she told the New York Post, things are changing in New York. President Trump outperformed in Queens and the Bronx. So whether you're on Staten Island or in my district in the North Country, this is Trump country. She also said she's launching a Save New York political action committee to help Republicans win elections. Staten Island GOP chair said that Stefanik received a rock star welcome from the party after she was introduced by popular local Republican Representative Nicole Malatakis. The polling showed last week, I know they're trying to suggest a firebrand can't win. I just don't think moderates, they don't draw the attention. They don't draw the support. I think it's a losing narrative. And really, I would argue for both parties. I think this kind of wishy-washiness isn't going to drive voters out to the polls. And I think Stefanik, according to the polls, was neck and neck with Hochul already before even declaring, before even entering the race, that she was tied with Governor Hochul. There's something to be said about that. The GOP chair there said Elise has the wit, the know-how, and fundraising ability to run for governor. She is great at fundraising. She really is. Now, that was my update on her, but still no official declaration. Two quick things here about two quick things about New York when we come back. And then we do have to get to the big, beautiful bill more in depth. I know we talked about it at the top of the show, but we have to dive a little deeper. I see some comments coming in. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Cut! I get it. Slow motion. Slow down geographic atrophy. But we don't need gimmicks. Stick to the facts. GA, the advanced form of dry AMD, can irreversibly damage your vision. But Syfovre is an FDA-approved eye injection that gives you the power to slow GA. Syfovre was proven to slow GA lesion growth over 2 years with increasing effect over time. It's the only treatment to slow GA in as few as 6 doses per year.
Don't take Syfovre if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye that may include pain and redness or are allergic to it. Syfovre can cause severe allergic reactions. Other serious side effects are eye infection and retinal detachments, severe inflammation of vessels in the retina, which may result in severe vision loss, wet AMD, eye inflammation, and an increase in eye pressure. Most common side effects are eye discomfort, wet AMD, small specks floating in vision, and blood in the white of the eye. Tell your doctor right away if you have any side effects.
Act on facts to slow GA. Ask your retina specialist about Syfovre. Nope, just the facts.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to our Steuben Senior Services Fund section of the program where we read viewer comments. Ken writes in, with Musk saying things like the big beautiful bill is an abomination, which will be spun as Trump's folly, I'm starting to think that his black eye wasn't given to him by Little X. Yes, that was his excuse on the black eye. He was playing with his son, and he got a little too rambunctious. But yeah, the media is already spinning it. That's why, even though we had the story earlier where a Chinese national was trying to, with ties to the Chinese Communist Party, was trying to smuggle in agroterrorism fungus, that story downgraded the main story about what Musk tweeted out. So that's a very good point, Ken. We are going to dive deeper into that as we have been doing all morning long. Comment from a different viewer. How does Canada deal with our tariffs? They send us their wildfire smoke. Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, so Musk yesterday. Oh, one last thing, because we were talking about New York issues. I just want to wrap up. So we learned yesterday in that interview with mayoral candidate, former governor, disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo, had said in the interview that his only regret wasn't putting COVID positive patients into nursing homes. He's never apologized for that. He's never really acknowledged that. There was questions of whether or not he was truthful to Congress in relations to that specific issue. That wasn't his regret. His regret was that he resigned over the sexual harassment claims. That was his only regret. Now, some people are saying in that interview, and we talked about it yesterday, I guess we didn't highlight this, but the way he worded a certain answer is, quote, a disqualifying offense. Mayoral frontrunner Andrew Cuomo had egg on his face, says the New York Post, after he messed up the name of what is a kind of a famous New York breakfast sandwich, the bacon, egg, and cheese, referring to it as a bacon, cheese, and egg on an English muffin. We had read that was one of the weird. I don't like those kind of those interviews that are so easy. I would say the most difficult question is when they asked if he regrets resigning. That was probably the only real hard-hitting question from the New York Times there. But according to many, specifically City Councilwoman Joan Arola, honestly calling it a bacon, cheese, and egg instead of bacon, egg, and cheese should be a disqualifying offense. Well, there's a lot of things Cuomo did to disqualify himself, in my opinion, from ever winning elected office again, when you look at specifically the COVID positive patients being put into nursing homes that led to thousands of deaths. Never been apologetic for it. But now, as we brought you the story last week, Politico is confirming that there may be more of a national thought in Cuomo's mind, not just happy with being mayor if he is successful, and the polling shows that he most likely will be successful. Yesterday, the article that we brought to you, and I thought it was a good point, is that Cuomo may not be, it's not so much that Cuomo's strong, it's that the other candidates are weak, and there may be something to that. But according to Politico, Cuomo wants to organize Democrats nationally. So looking at the national scene, some people familiar with his thinking, which is a term that's always used in the media, were saying last week that perhaps he's thinking of a presidential run. And remember, the ego that Cuomo has, and this is both parties would have said this at the time, of of his governorship that he did see, had those kind of delusions of grandeur of going to that national level. He was still talking about running, it was back in 2020? It must have been 2016. Yeah, 2016. That even though he was polling at 1% nationwide, he was still contemplating getting into the race. Then there was talks when he was, in the media's eyes, a rock star, a superstar during COVID, and he was giving the daily press briefings. There was talks even back then, well before the media was talking about Joe Biden's mental health. There was talks of Biden stepping down and Cuomo taking the helm and running for president against Trump. But then everything, as they say, the wheels fell off. So looking towards the national scene, and as we reported last week in that piece you can find for yourself at Politico, but there's more, at least in his own mind, in the future for former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Okay, talking about the back and forth between Musk and Trump, to Ken's point, who wrote in, they are going to paint this as Trump's folly, as this is embarrassing to Trump, that because Musk signaled that anybody that votes for the bill should be fired next election cycle, there's a hope, at least in the media and those in the Democratic Party, that this will push some people to change their minds on it, scared that either Musk will donate to their opponents or just that it will come back to hurt them. Now, according to the New York Post, sources familiar with Musk and why Musk did this, there are 4 reasons that they give. 1, House Republicans' removal of electric vehicle tax credits that were part of the Biden-era Inflation Reduction Act and boosted Tesla. Okay, so there's the financial issue, that this is going to hurt him at a time, in full fairness, at a time when he lost a lot, and Tesla lost a lot when he volunteered his time and resources to join the Trump administration to root out waste, fraud, and corruption with Doge. So not a lot of people, I think, could hold a grudge over that being in the back of his mind. Number 2 is the White House officials' refusal to allow him to remain a special government employee beyond the 130-day statutory limit. So I've seen that worded 2 ways. One, that they didn't extend the 130-day limit. The other way that people have worded it is that Trump essentially fired him. I would tend to word it more this way, because why? It's a law that's only a 130-day time frame for special government employees. So maybe he did want that extended. He liked being a more active member of the administration. But we'll continue. Number 3, which could be one of the reasons behind his thinking, is the Federal Aviation Administration opted not to use his Starlink satellite system to help run the nation's air traffic control. And finally, number 4, Trump pulling his nomination of Musk ally Jared Isaacman to lead NASA, because Isaacman's, quote, had prior associations, which many believe to refer to past donations to Democrats. So Musk saying the big beautiful bill is a disgusting abomination. Carolyn Levitt saying that Donald Trump knew Musk's position on it, and it does not change Donald Trump's position on it. Now, you have undoubtedly seen the tweets from Musk, the 3 or 4 that have been heavily quoted in the mainstream media. But following the criticism, Senate Majority Leader John Thune told reporters he hopes Musk will come to a different conclusion about the big, beautiful spending bill, adding the two have a difference of opinion about the legislation. Where is it here? Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, told reporters yesterday, with all due respect, my friend Elon is terribly wrong about this one big, beautiful bill. Johnson said he discussed with Musk the accelerated appeal of many green subsidies in the House version of the bill, something Musk has voiced opposition to in recent days. But for him to come out and pan the whole bill, to me, is just very disappointing, very surprising in light of the conversation I had with him yesterday, Johnson said. Well, I think the biggest disappointment is not his opinion. I think we talked about it earlier in the program. You know, at a time when we were lectured that Trump only picks loyalists, scary lockstepping loyalist. This proves that that's just not the case, that Trump does have people around him that have differences of opinions so that he can come to the best conclusion. The problem I have with it, that Musk likes doing it in such a vocal, outspoken way, not behind closed doors to help craft a big, beautiful bill right from the beginning, or have that conversation with Trump, Johnson, Thune, whoever, but to do it in such a vocal way that he knows is going to hurt Trump and push a narrative on the bill. Now, again, remember, Musk has been hated since Trump got sworn into office, especially as he worked for Doge. Musk has been hated by the media. Now that he has spoken out against the big, beautiful bill, you will see the reaction to Musk change. It's not going to mean that they're going to coddle him and support him wholeheartedly, but the language that they use in their pieces, in their articles, is going to be very different than what you would have seen when he was pushing Doge initiatives. Now he will be in favor again. So it is an abomination. Also threatening, quote, in November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. The bill will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to $2.5 trillion and burden American citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt. And that Congress is making America bankrupt. So your thoughts on the bill, a little bit more about what is being said to reporters, but also behind the scenes, as I mentioned, Mike Johnson saying that Elon is terribly wrong about the one big, beautiful bill. So we will talk about this moving forward, but we are running just a tad bit late. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
I have type 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily, Jardiance, at each day start. As time went on, it was easy to see I'm lowering my A1C.
And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardiance can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too.
Serious side effects include increased ketones in blood or urine, which can be fatal. Stop Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, trouble breathing, or increased ketones. Jardiance may cause dehydration that can suddenly worsen kidney function and make you feel dizzy, lightheaded, or weak upon standing. Genital yeast infections in men and women, urinary tract infections, low blood sugar, or a rare life-threatening bacterial infection between and around the anus and genitals can occur. Call your doctor right away if you have fever or feel weak or tired and pain, tenderness, swelling, or redness in the genital area. Don't use if allergic to Jardiance. Stop use if you have a serious allergic reaction. Call your doctor if you have rash, swelling, difficulty breathing, or swallowing. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor right away if you have new pain or tenderness, sores, ulcers, or infection in your legs or feet.
Jardiance is really swell, the little pill with a big story to tell.
Play ball! Your Elmira Pioneers are back at historic Dunfield this Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Thursday, it's AG in the infield night. Friday, June 6th, it's free West Division champion t-shirts and Meet the Pioneers. Sunday, June 8th, it's free poster schedule night. Get your tickets early. Call 734-2690.
Our picturesque view of historic Market Street, nestled in the heart of the Gaffer District. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments. Steuben Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. I think another factor for the normalization of left-wing violence is the lack of the socialization of young people. Prior generations interacted with others in person, not isolated behind the screen of a phone or computer. It cheapens the value of the life of other people. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. Thank you for that last bit. But I think you raise a fantastic point. And some of the things that you view, these young people are viewing online, is of violence, is of kind of negative images. And it does, to your point, cheapen the value of life. And also if you're playing video games, it cheapen the value of life. It's a much larger picture. I don't think you can downplay how much social media has played a role in that. If you are just joining us, that comment comes in reference to a piece coming from the organization called Network Contagion Research Institute. This was a piece originally published in the Spectre, but it was left-wing violence is being normalized, and it had a startling discovery that some of this violence is looked by a majority of people that identify themselves as left-wing, that the assassination attempts and the like are not discouraged, but in some instances they believe justified. Is very troubling. And that piece you can find at the Spectre. So thank you for your comment. Comment from a different viewer. Musk is right. Why are Republicans throwing themselves under the bus? Thank you very much. Now, again, going back to Elon's comments about the bill being a disgusting abomination. Yesterday, Trump called on Republicans in the House and Senate to work as fast as they can to get the bill to his desk by the 4th of July. He also described the bill as being a historic opportunity to turn our country around after 4 disastrous years. Passing the One Big Beautiful Bill is a historic opportunity to turn our country around. With 4 disastrous years under Joe Biden, we will take a massive step to balancing our budget by enacting the largest mandatory spending cut ever, and Americans will get to keep more of their money with the largest tax cut ever and no longer taxing tips, overtime, or Social Security for seniors, something 80 million voters supported in November. Now, Bill Kristol, and I, in full disclosure, not a fan of his work because you have someone that is very, very, very often wrong in his predictions and his demands of what Trump should do. But yeah, still gets out there and makes the same types of predictions. If you go back to 2016, he said Trump would be out before Iowa. He said he would be out before Christmas. The list kept going on and on and on, and one wrong after another. There was a website at one point that listed all of them, but still considered a political commentator. Interesting how that works. I don't know. If you were a sports commentator making those type of predictions over and over again about a sports team winning and were that wrong, you would be out of a job. But not if you're Bill Kristol and it's MSNBC. He was on the program there called The Beat. He said, "Don't you think his reaction," meaning Musk, "suggests Trump fired him? There's talk about you mentioning a breakup. True enough, he was going to go back to his business. He'd only had that 130 days and all that. He wanted to stay. He loved it there. I think Trump just said at some point, no, sorry, goodbye." So host Ari Melber said, yeah, he hasn't been fired in a long time, meaning Musk. And Kristol said, right, he's gotten away with so much. He concluded Elon has not studied the 1,000-page House bill, how it changes in the Senate. He didn't study any of the agencies he's ruined, USAID and others, but he's done a lot of damage to the country. He didn't even bother to study for that. He's not studying some 1,000-page bill with complicated Medicaid cuts, tax provisions, and so forth. It's his way of attacking Trump. So to that point, I don't agree overall with Bill Kristol, and I don't agree with the term firing. I think it was, we're not going to extend your 130 days as a special government employee. Do I think that played a role in Musk's decision to go very public with this? I do. I do think you add on top of that because, again, Musk and Tesla lost a lot during his voluntary work in the government. So you add to that the end of the electric vehicle provision in this. You look at maybe his job not being extended. Could all play into the idea of why he decided to make this so public. But then you could argue that he's always been very public with all his comments. Even when he was that special government employee for Trump, he was saying things that he disagreed with the Trump administration, specifically tariffs, I believe, at the time. Now, Rand Paul also questioned the big, beautiful bill, saying that he cannot get behind the 2-year raise in the debt ceiling in the one big, beautiful bill, though he likes other aspects of the bill. That's Rand Paul. So Trump took to social media yesterday calling out, so it wasn't a good day for commentary on the big, beautiful bill. Trump said Rand Paul has very little understanding of the BBB, especially the tremendous growth that is coming. He loves voting no on everything. He thinks it's good politics, but it's not. The BBB is a big winner. Rand votes no on everything, but never has any practical or constructive ideas. His ideas are actually crazy, losers. The people of Kentucky can't stand him. Wow. This is a big growth bill. Boy, that's a lot. And to his point, though, his father was very much like that too, Ron Paul. A lot of no votes, whenever you think about that. Now, Paul said, I support the tax cuts. I voted for them in 2017. I support making the tax cuts permanent. And then he goes on and says some of the things he likes, some of the things he doesn't like. But shortly after Trump's post, Paul took to Twitter to share that at least 4 GOP senators feel the same as he does. So it is going to be a tough row to hoe in the Senate. A few other things on this as we move along, but keep your comments coming in as we continue along. 7:35 here on Frankly Speaking. We'll be right back.
My moderate to severe Crohn's symptoms kept me out of the picture. Now I have Skyrizi.
I've got places to go and I'm feeling free. Controlling my Crohn's means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
And now I'm back in the picture. Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements. Skyrizi helped visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. And with Skyrizi, many were in remission at 12 weeks, at 1 year, and even at 3 years.
Don't use if allergic. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or UC.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's disease. Skyrizi is also approved for ulcerative colitis.
Scamming is a huge problem today. Worldwide, seniors lost $4.8 billion to scammers in 2024. The Steuben County Office for the Aging is here to help. Come to our seminar, Recognizing and Avoiding Financial Scams, Wednesday, June 4th at the Main Place in Hornell, New York, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Learn how to identify scams, how to protect yourself, and fraud watch tips. Also, the Steuben County Office for the Aging will provide tips on emergency preparedness, June 4th at 12 p.m. To learn more, go to steubencountiny.gov/235.
If you are one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. And of course, what else would we be talking about but the big, beautiful bill, especially after Elon Musk's very open comments on Twitter, broadcasting his feelings on what he calls a disgusting abomination. Now, yesterday, the White House did launch a website where Americans can tabulate how much the big, beautiful bill will personally save them if lawmakers pass the sweeping legislation. The website launched yesterday alongside a photo of President Donald Trump and a message celebrating how American industry has thrown its support behind the legislations and how we are preparing your tax cuts. Now, there's a long way to go here, as we know. The bill, over 1,000 pages long. The biggest criticism, that it adds trillions to what is already a ballooning government debt of more than $36 trillion and deficits. The new site features a calculator that tabulates the tax savings Americans can expect if the legislation passes. The calculator asks users to input their weekly base pay, weekly tip amount, and weekly overtime premium pay to determine the savings. According to Fox News, an individual, for example, receiving $665 in weekly pay, $260 in tips, and $100 in overtime premium pay would translate to $2,246 in yearly savings and $187 in monthly savings. No, we're not going to go through every example that they could think of, but the new website also touts more than 1,000 endorsements from American industries and organizations, including support from businesses such as Uber and DoorDash. Trump saying that Republicans must unite behind the one big beautiful bill. Not only does it cut taxes for all Americans, but it will kick millions of illegal aliens off of Medicaid to protect it for those who are the ones in real need. The country will suffer great without the legislation, with the taxes going up 65%. Also saying stop talking and get it done. But there does seem to be quite a few holdouts in the Senate, and of course then it'll have to return to the House after those changes are made. But if you recall, Trump did kind of give the go-ahead to the Senate, saying make the changes you want, but we've got to get this done before July 4th. Now, obviously, we're not going to be able to read through all of these, but we've mentioned the kind of PR push that the White House did yesterday in support of the bill, especially after Musk's comments. They released, and it's right at the White House's communications office, they emailed it to the program directly, but it's 50 wins and the one big, beautiful bill. No, I'm not going to go through and read all 50, but I think it is kind of a comprehensive guide of why Trump and the White House are in support of the big, beautiful bill and why they want to see it cross that finish line. But one of the criticisms, and it really is cliche at this point, that it's used no matter what Republicans propose, it is always said by Democrat politicians or those in the media that it's going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. They always say it doesn't matter who the president was, doesn't matter who was in charge of the House, Speaker of the House, I should say. As long as Republicans push forth a bill, they are always going to say, because they believe that's a winning tactic, that it's going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. The interesting one that they're running with is Medicaid. So, and even Josh Hawley, wasn't it, said that that is a political suicide. But as we've said on this program, if you present it in the way it actually translates, which is able-bodied Americans having to put some type of work effort into earning that Medicaid, meaning if you are able-bodied, you can still get that Medicaid if you volunteer, if you do get a job, or if you go to school for 80 hours a month, not a week, 80 hours a month. So according to the Post, the Senate takes up the House, passed Big Beautiful Bill Act. The big hitch is a dispute between fiscal hawks and Medicaid doves. That is, senators who say it doesn't cut enough federal spending versus those who claim it cuts too much from Medicaid. The latter crew includes a few Republicans and pretty much all Democrats who keep talking about millions losing their health insurance with literally deadly consequences. The hawks are a lot closer to reality here. The GOP bill doesn't actually even cut Medicaid. It just slightly slows its growth in years to come, even though Medicaid spending has exploded since the year 2019. And a lot of that you look at, too, with Biden's policies that led to the open borders. But per the Congressional Budget Office, federal outlays on the program, Medicaid, have been positively soaring from $409 billion back in 2019 to $615 billion in 2023 and projected to hit $655 billion this year. That's a 50% jump from 2019 to 2023 and a 60% jump to 2025. So what happened? First, a spike in emergency spending in the name of dealing with the pandemic, followed by the Biden crew's quiet drive to expand Medicaid as much as it could in the direction of universal health coverage. The last included giving Uncle Sam's okay to complex state financial games to qualify for billions more in free, quote-unquote, free federal funding. As a result, per the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, the federal share of total Medicaid spending rose from 63% in 2018 to 70% in 2020. Again, remember, this is a policy that's supposed to be a program for the poor. Every time Democrats gain power in Washington, they ratchet up Medicaid outlays. Republicans for decades have flinched from rolling it back, no matter how perverse it leaves the rules. Yes, they believe, as Josh Hawley does, that it's political suicide because they're scared of, remember, the media is never going to give them positive coverage anyway, or this big, beautiful bill positive coverage anyway, but they still get scared that they are going to be attacked personally for this, or that people are going to blame them for some type of Medicaid cut, when all this does is slow the growth. The feds still cover 90% of the cost of Medicaid coverage for single men versus just 50% for families and women with kids in the house. The mismatch began as a temporary rule when Obamacare passed, but somehow has never ended. And it adds up to far more than Uncle Sam can afford, and a major reason why yearly federal budget deficits are nearing $2 trillion, even though the feds keep collecting even more in taxes. Sooner or later, it's got to stop. But the GOP budget bill only begins to rein in Medicaid's growth with common sense reforms like requiring able-bodied single men to work just 80 hours a month to still qualify. And that can be volunteer work too, keep that in mind. And that rule wouldn't even kick in for a couple of years, folks. It's not as if it's going to happen overnight. None of the Republicans' savage cuts do happen overnight. Bottom line, the bill is already plenty dovish. If the Senate bends in any more in their direction, it'll break the bank all the sooner. So there is, when you hear people talk about the Medicaid cuts, there is the dirty truth. Okay, a lot more to cover. Get your comments in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
AI is the next big thing, a tool of unlimited possibilities.
It's going to change everything.
Actually, at William Attire, we've been using AI for over 35 years.
What?
AI, attorney intelligence. It's how we use our legal minds to recover millions of dollars for our clients in motor vehicle cases. Hurt in a car? Call William Attire and put our attorney intelligence to work for you. 444-4444.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tubs and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're running, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
First you hear it, then you feel it. That's the crunchy, melt-in-your-mouth feeling of Ritz Toasted
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your home and business needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio, and this is the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. Let's get right to them. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. One of the two prisoners left on the run down south made a video asking Trump for help. That's great. I saw the video. Wow. I guess, what did they do? They ended up raiding his family's house. They found some clothing, but not him. Continuing, Ukraine is blowing up bridges now. Let's go. Putin has to feel so small. Elon bashes the big, beautiful bill. Elon is still in a hole in points with me after his Doge antics, but anything that could infuriate Trump brings a big smile to my face. Also, some GOP representatives admitted they didn't read the bill, voted yes for it, and now they regret it. Really? I'll continue with your comments, Rick, but we had mentioned that in the 6 o'clock hour, that I believe it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, again, the optics of saying that you voted for it, but then you found out there was something that you didn't like is not a good look. It's never going to sound good, because that was the headlines this morning when I was getting ready for work, that Republican House members admit they had never read the bill. You've got to be more thoughtful when you speak on things like that. And sadly, I think for whatever reason, and we don't know, we've speculated this morning why Elon Musk went so public with his dislike of Big Beautiful Bill. Sadly, that plays into the media's hands, and to what you're saying, Rick. And I'm not knocking you. That's your opinion on it, but it's being used as an attack on Trump, as Ken put it. And I thought it was a good way of putting it. Trump's folly, that they're trying to use it to embarrass Trump. So that's why, again, there's got to be some grudge there. What that grudge is from, I do not know. Also, Rick continues. I'm not going to read your numbers about Israel, Rick, only because that has been disproven. Washington Post had to walk those numbers back. I just don't make it a point here to ever use the pro-Hamas propaganda numbers that have been pushed, unfortunately, by the media. Again, Washington Post having to walk it back just this morning. So I'm never going to quote those numbers. Just keep that in mind. But Rick continues. And it looks like Pete the Leak, is that his nickname? Pete Hegseth, has been spending his time thinking about renaming battleships. Maybe he'll recommend the USS Donald Trump. That should pair up well with Trump's bust on Mount Rushmore. I hope we all have a better day today. Thank you, Rick. Comment from a different viewer. I have to agree with what that viewer said, that our youth are largely preoccupied with technology and not really tuned in to other relationships. And I seriously feel for them. But I've noticed over the past few years how few, if any, young people were spotted on beautiful spring and summer days in the parks or walking down the street or in the yard. Where are the kids? In homes, on cell phones, or playing video games? It's not healthy, it's not productive, and most of all, it's not serving them well. We need more youth activities, and that's something I could get behind. Well, thank you very much. One thing that's always interesting to see, since I'm right here on Market Street looking out the window, is when you see a group of young people getting together as friends to walk down the street, maybe if it's a day off, something like that, and they're all on their cell phones, either texting to somebody else or talking to somebody else, not talking to each other as a group. That is something I've noticed within the last probably 10 years, that being a common occurrence. Okay. The Trump administration sent a $9.4 billion rescission package to the House of Representatives that would eliminate wasteful foreign aid spending at the Department of State and USAID, said Speaker Johnson. This was revealed yesterday in a joint statement with Johnson, Steve Scalise, Tom Emmer, and Lisa McClain. It highlighted how Republicans could now fulfill their mandate and continue codifying into law a more efficient federal government. This is another, and I've heard some say this, that this is something that Doge won't like. It was kind of this, CNN was reporting on it, that Doge, this kind of codifies what Doge was doing unilaterally. So the $9.4 billion rescission package going to the House. Also today, as we mentioned, Trump's 50% tariffs on imported steel and aluminum take effect. So your comments on this, we're going to read your last second comments before we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Sometimes my
Moderate to severe plaque psoriasis gets in my way. But thanks to Skyrizi, I'm free to bare my skin. With Skyrizi, I saw dramatically clearer skin, and many people were 100% plaque-free. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is everything.
Now's the time. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Learn how AbbVie...
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to the Stu Ben Senior Services Fund section of our program and read viewer comments. One viewer said, Republican Rick, I don't think Rick is a Republican. Republican Rick is right about one thing. It seems like Musk is upset with Trump. It does seem like he is a little upset with Trump. A lot of speculation of why that could be. We brought that to you all morning long. But to air that so publicly, knowing the damage that can do and the embarrassment that can do to Trump, but also to some of the efforts by Republicans in Doge and like that, we'll find out more, I'm sure. There'll probably be books about it, for heaven's sakes, the way the media covers this kind of stuff. Ken writes in, I'm certainly not a qualified political analyst, but with Musk realizing that aligning himself with Trump and helping him get elected hurt his bottom line, I would assume he is now trying to distance himself from Trump to help recover some lost wealth, and all Democrats and a good number of Republicans having their bottom lines dramatically affected by Doge's discoveries of rampant fraud and abuse of taxpayer dollars, along with the knowledge that Trump is a lame duck president and most politicians don't want to be on the wrong side of the legacy media. I assume that the bill will fail and the scourge of the earth, Donald Trump, will be blamed. They are going to blame him. Absolutely. That's why he's pushing. He wants it. I think Musk did not help that process, clearly, because this gave the media an opportunity to try to embarrass Trump, try to embarrass Republicans, because every Republican is going to be asked if they vote for it. Well, Musk said you should be fired next November. What do you say to that? Musk, listen, the media hated Musk when he was working for Trump. They're going to love him now because they're going to run with this to embarrass Trump. They'll turn on him again eventually, but they're going to love him now. But you can't think for a moment he didn't know exactly what he was doing. All right, well, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. One kind of breaking story in Jasmine Crockett being one of the leaders of the Democrat Party, being one of the kind of the new stars of the Democrat Party, said that she will pursue Trump's impeachment if she is elected House Oversight Chair. Okay, there you are. Keep that in mind. Hakeem Jeffries also said more is more when it comes to Democrats, quote, flooding the zone in opposition of Trump. Whew. What a busy show. Thank you for all the comments. Thanks for all the questions, the concerns. We really appreciate you being a part of the program this morning. I'm asking you to join us every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking. Only on WYDC TV. Big Fox will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it. Alrighty, have a great day, everyone.